Hello and welcome to HyzerMedia's coverage of the 2022 New Jersey State Championships, sponsored by Innova Disc Golf. This is stop 11 of 25 on HyzerMedia's tour this year, so if you'd like to see more coverage, hit that subscribe button. Today's coverage is presented by Cosmic Disc Golf and brought to you in part by our Patreon family. So thank you to them and thank you to you for joining us today for this final back nine of this tournament. If you watch the front nine, you see we have a lot of big names on this card, and we're going to get right into it on hole 10. It's a par 3, 265 feet. Pretty much one of the straightest wooded shots you're ever going to see. Anywhere off left or right, it's going to be difficult to access the green. So keeping it straight, as you can see here, is the play. Starting off this back nine, Michael Johansen with a 4-stroke lead, which just happened within the last few holes. If you haven't seen the front nine, definitely go back and check that out, and then come back here and follow the finale to this action. It was pretty close, within a stroke or two the entire round, and as Matt Bell kicks an early tree, this entire card, like I said, was within a stroke or two. In the last few holes, MJ started to open it up, but we are just starting the final nine, so lots of stuff can still happen. And Chris throwing exactly what you want to do, perfectly straight the entire time, using the ground and the wood chip, loose leaves on the ground to keep it going all the way up into the circle. And Bo also hitting an early tree, kicking off to the right side. So both Matt and Bo are going to have to manufacture something from off the fairway to get all the way up there. Looks like Matt didn't quite get this turned over enough, but he's within the circle, so he'll have a chance to save his par. Bo looks like he is a little bit closer to the fairway and has a better line for his forehand. Just needs to sit. Oh, and catches a tree. So I guess he took that just a bit too wide. So now he'll have this for his par. And he knew it out of his hand. Just a bit low. Should have maybe a 15-20 foot comebacker. And great putt by Matt to save a par. You can see having to duck under something, it was a little obstructed. But Matt has proven himself to be a very good putter. He is one of the putting world champions in previous years, so definitely has the skills to do that. As Chris gets a birdie, brings it into a 3-way tie for second place right now, as MJ continues to lengthen his lead, now at 5 strokes. So the unfortunate bogey for Bo, as we move over to the longest hole on the course, hole 11, par 5, 775 feet. Off the tee, you're throwing it pretty straight. Want to hit in the ground around here, maybe skip up between these two trees. This is a pretty good landing zone. Second shot, usually a backhand turnover or a forehand, trying to follow the line that the drone is flying and get up to either this mound of sand or down into this little dry creek bed if you can. Set yourself up for about a 200-foot approach to the green on this very difficult par 5. I want to thank our sponsors for today: Iron Hill Brewery and Restaurant, sponsoring the drone coverage all around, so thank you very much to them. Cosmic, the presenting sponsor. And D-Town Disc Golf for also supporting our coverage. So MJ and Chris doing pretty much what you got to do in your first shot. Get it down the fairway. In terms of par 5s, the distance is not huge, so as long as you make it up there clean, even if the distance isn't that far up there, like we see Matt getting way up there, you're still able to make up some distance on your next few throws. In fact, some would actually argue that being shorter in the middle of the fairway probably a better spot than even where Matt ended up. He's way up there.
Oh, that skips so hard. Jesus.
Oh, and Bo getting a big flare skip and an even bigger tree kick and roll back to the middle of the fairway, and that's a perfect spot. MJ with a good tree kick back into the middle of the fairway. Again, he's still in good position to get up and down. Chris, a little inside, but missing everything and getting up and almost out of that ditch that people are trying to get to on their second shots. So he's playing that hole perfectly. Bo, after kicking and rolling back into the fairway, has a pretty good forehand line. Catches some cabbage up high, but falls down and filters down into that ditch right where Chris's shot landed. And you can see Matt Bell farthest up, but out of position, makes it a tough throw. He had a line out there, little inside, hits a tree.
Go ball.
MJ asking for it to get
I've seen
up.
you make further. I've seen you make further.
Just enough that he's maybe circle's edge, maybe 40 feet, looking for his birdie. And that should do. Matt far enough up on his first throw that even after a tree kick on his second, he's able to get it to the green on his third. So a lot of different ways to do it on this hole. Like I said, the short distance allows for creativity and different ways to get there. You don't have to get a ton of distance on each of your throws, but being on the fairway is certainly important to make progression. So as we see, Chris is very far up there. Oh, and doesn't quite take advantage of being in the best position of the group. Hits that tree. He should still have a look at it. Oh, is MJ just off left. You can probably hear, maybe see a little bit. It is starting to rain at this point in the round. See the umbrellas obviously not affecting Chris. Still able to make the putt for his birdie. So he's in solo second for the moment. Bo also able to card the birdie, excuse me, as he scurries out of the way. And Matt has that for his birdie as well. So 3 birdies on hole 11, not the typical result. You see MJ tapping in his par, umbrella in hand. This was playing as the 4th hardest hole at 0.3 strokes over par. So the card playing 3 strokes under par, pretty impressive. As we move over to hole 12, par 3, 243 feet. Probably throwing a big backhand hyzer for the right-handed players, trying to just get over the retaining wall, or maybe take it wide and skip up onto the green. Plenty of room up high to take this. And Chris's shot lands in the crook of the tree there. Luckily, that is probably no more than 12 feet from the basket, but probably a little bit of difficult footing. And Matt almost doing the exact same thing. Actually getting a little bit of an unfortunate kick and roll away from the basket, but that should still be no more than 20 feet. Bo taking an inside line with his forehand and catching the bottom of the basket. Very fortunate, because that had the speed to skip off the back of the green. And MJ, no fireworks compared to the other 3, but puts it there. Winds up actually being the furthest away at 22 feet maybe. Probably pretty close to where Matt's looking at. And he cards the birdie. And Matt also able to. So as long as this tree does not give Chris too much difficulty in his footing, just puts it right in there. There's your answer. So we are looking at our first star frame here at Stafford Woods.
It's such a cool spot. I want to acknowledge that somebody landed there. It's a thing, apparently.
So, very interesting hole. Winds up with great scores for everybody. We're moving over to hole 13, par 3, 204 feet. Shortest hole on the course, and it's downhill. Pretty much just gotta miss the trees and get it down in time. Honestly, the hardest part of this hole is not throwing it too far. Chris doing a good job at using the ground to slow him down. Maybe leaving it a little shorter than he intended, but inside the circle nonetheless. Matt Bell going very high forehand. He'll be probably outside of the circle long and in those laurels. Bo almost hitting the base of the pin. He should have no issues with that putt. MJ a little early right, but sneaks through. He'll be behind that tree. But we'll see if, yeah, little straddle out. He has a look. And he knew it. Picking up his mini before the disc was even in the chains. Great putt. And now putting Matt Bell's putting skills to the test. Looks like he's going to have to go up and over everything. Oh, and off the cage. Great bid. Chris, plenty close enough. Also knew it before it went in. And Bo pretty much tap in. So 3 birdies. Again, other than Matt being a little long. Almost 2 star frames in a row. But lots of scoring on these short holes. And we're moving over to the third of these short holes. Par 3 for hole 14. 285 feet. Back uphill, so a little bit longer. Uphill, adding to it, maybe a little closer to 300. Making it a probably a higher scoring average, but the line is more of the difficult. You can throw a backhand hyzer, and that is probably about as best as you can do. You need something to go left and then right, so a righty forehand flex line, if you want to think of it that way, is probably the shot shape. But you can get pretty close with that right to left shot, either the backhand for righties or the forehand for Bo, the lefty. But can't quite park it, I guess is my point, because your disc is fading away from the basket by the time it gets to the end of the flight. MJ gets actually even closer than Chris with that shot, so it's certainly possible. And now we'll see Matt throw that flex forehand, probably the preferable line if you have it. As you see, it goes around and then starts to curve back towards the basket. And Matt is up on the green, and maybe it's just a little bit too much on it. Goes past. And Bo was the only one that wasn't up there clean, so he'll have the longest look. Probably more of an upshot. Catches little tree, but he'll still be right there to save his par. Chris just a bit wide right. Not able to card the birdie. MJ a couple steps in front of him. And continuing to extend his lead. Bo quickly tapping in his par, and now this is Matt for his birdie. And nails it. Great putt. Good comebacker for Chris. as we move over to hole 15, par 4, 750 feet. I want to thank Iron Hill Brewery for sponsoring our drone coverage again. Out of the woods on your first shot, trying to land somewhere out in the open. The rough on this hole is not out of bounds, but obviously don't want to land there to obstruct your run-up. Pretty much anywhere out in the open is going to be fine. More distance, the easier your second shot will be. Second shot, you have quite a few options. You can go left side to the biggest gap, but that leaves you the longest distance you're traveling through the woods. You have the straight gap, a little bit tighter, and then there's also a big high hyzer, kind of crash through the trees far right. Either way, you're trying to get down to this beautiful built up green down on the side of this hill. One of the iconic greens on this course. MJ narrowly missing the trees on the right side and stays out of the rough, so using the full width of the fairway there, but good spot that he ends up in nonetheless. Matt Bell taking it a little bit straighter and quite a bit further left side and far down the fairway. Chris throwing much straighter shot. Comes back just in time. And a little bit more on the right side. Maybe opening up some different options for him. And Bo, a little bit of a flex forehand. Something stable. And putting him right in the middle of the fairway. That'll work. So Chris on the right side, the back end looks like he's going towards that middle gap or maybe the far right a little bit lower and catches the tree. That was looking perfect. Obviously one of the other challenges here is to slow your disc down in time. This is probably the steepest slope of anywhere on the course. Bo also getting caught up by the trees. But having your disc stop near the basket from throwing it so far away is difficult. And we see MJ trying the roller here. Oh, and catching that tree. That was going probably a little too straight. From where the camera was, the basket is a lot further down the hill. So it might have curled up eventually. But I think that was probably a good tree for MJ. Matt Bell going with the big high crashing hyzer. And that should work. A little up on the hill, but he's the closest to the basket. Chris giving it a good bid. Nice and floaty. I think it stayed pretty close. Not quite up on that the mulch circle, but should be right there. And Bo also giving it a pretty good bid. Happy it didn't roll because the hill does continue back past the pin, so it can go pretty far down the hill even after your third shot if you don't keep it close. Oh, and Matt not able to take advantage of being the closest. So depending on exactly where Chris is, I think all of these guys are going to be tapping in their pars. He actually does have a little bit of work left, but he's just at the bottom of that lip. Good putt by Chris. Like I said, these guys will be just tapping in. So, moving over to hole 16 is a par 4, 545 feet. Fairly short for a par 4, but OB left and right and all the way around the green, maybe a little bit outside of circle 1, excuse me, behind the basket. To the hanging basket, another iconic hole on this course. These guys basically just keeping it inbounds. for the first shot, giving themselves a pretty easy approach for their second. And this needs to sit. Oh. Took it so wide. It was actually over the out of bounds right for the beginning of the flight and still skipping all the way back left. So even though this is a pretty short par 4, it does have some teeth to it, as we see. Chris really challenging that right side after seeing Matt's go out of bounds left, but able to have it swing back enough. And Bo happy just to pretty much pitch up to the wide part of the fairway, because that should only leave him about 325 into the green.
Oh no, not 330. Slow down, buddy girl. It's 280, yeah.
And beautiful approach by MJ. Chris going standstill, super high and wide, kicking through the trees and almost running the basket. That was obviously him going for that eagle, being that close, and luckily staying that close and able to be right in the basket for his par. For his birdie, excuse me. Matt, after that shot, will be there for his par. And Bo staying in bounds, but has a little bit of a difficult putt, but able to hit it for the birdie. MJ moving to 25 under. Now having still a 6-stroke lead over the card. Want to shout out somebody. Harry Chase is currently the closest player to MJ at this point. He is done with his round at 23 under. And if you're doing the math, his first round was a 10 under, which makes this round 13 under at the Longs at Stafford Woods, which I confirmed with the tournament director, Adam Harris, is a course record. So congrats to him. Already done. Tournament still happening within 2 strokes of MJ for the lead. So that's pretty much what MJ knows and has to hold on to that. Starting off with these last 2 holes, hole 17, par 4, 646 feet, a pretty difficult par 4. Very tight line off the gap, and that is not how he wanted to start it. Is fortunate to stay right in the middle of the fairway, but probably less than 100 feet off the tee. And Chris hitting the gap, going left side. There's a lot of small stuff over there, but there is kind of a left fairway. Not quite as clean, but certainly can play down that way. Makes the hole a little bit longer. Bo probably trying to flip that up a little bit more. That was looking like a good line, but fading just a little bit early, hitting a tree. Gonna wind up on that right side. And Matt trying to play the Hyzer flip to turnover, which is definitely a good play, but not able to get it around the corner before it started to turn. And MJ with a beautiful second shot, getting him back into position. You can see we're just there. So speaking of great shots, you see the graphic down below. Our Patreon page, we post highlights of every tournament that we cover before the full coverage comes out, as well as disc giveaways, exclusive merch, and other great benefits. So if you'd like to check any of those things out, head over to patreon.com/HyzerMedia. You can also simply support us for as little as $2 a month. We super appreciate everything that our Patreon members help us out with, and if you'd like to be one of them as well, see your name at the beginning of our tournament coverage, you can head over there. So Bo with a good shot, and he's going to be off to the left, maybe within 80 or 90 feet. Chris's second shot catches the tree, so he'll be probably 120 to 150 out. Matt Bell almost ringing it up after his third shot. Didn't really look like he had much, but able to get it all the way there, and like we saw, scaring the basket. So both he and Chris will have similar length putts to save their par. And this is MJ's third shot. Fading out a little early, but he'll be on the green within the circle. And Bo furthest up after 2 shots, and able to ring up the birdie from 80 feet or so. Great putt by Bo. Take a look at it again. Floaty hyzer putt, hits it, perfect spot, falls right in there, almost never a doubt. Oh, and that was low right side. Can't quite believe that that was able to find its way out of the basket. So that leaves Bo and Chris tied for second place on this card, but like I said, Harry Chase is in the clubhouse, so to speak, with a 13 down for this round, 23 overall, so... Oh, and sorry, that was actually a bogey for Chris. So, he'll be trying to catch Bo after this, and also keep Matt off his tail for the final hole of this tournament. Hole 18, par 3, 367 feet. It's kind of an S shape off the tee. Bo's backhand may be able to flex all the way up there. The rest of these guys will probably try to throw a forehand flex to get up there.
Land in the middle.
Bo catching an early tree, but continuing to move forward. He is... Looked like he worked his way up to the fairway, cutting through the corner. And MJ looks like he caught a tree, but he's also in a similar spot to Bo. And here's that forehand flex line that can get all the way up to the basket. Matt knows how close he is to both Bo and Chris. And I'm not sure if that caught something or if it was just a little bit too stable. He's going to be right side, probably pin high, but not quite up there. On the green, that is. Chris going left side, but open. So he'll have a good approach line at it. Bo utilizing the fallen trees lining the fairway to slow him down, so he'll end this round with a par. Chris looks like he's going for it. Oh, he almost did. Running it at the basket, and then of course catch cam operator, so good to stay out of the way, but he'll actually have a little bit of work for his comeback. And there's MJ under the laurels with a 2-stroke lead for his par. And Matt splits those 2 trees with a spike forehand, and he's parked for his par to finish out this tournament. Bo also with a par. Chris still with a little bit of work left, holding on to a tie with Matt right now. And great putt. Very good putt for Chris. And here it is. Not the easiest position, but able to end it with a par to finish off the tournament. 25 under. 15 down at Tranquility Trails, and 10 under here at Stafford Woods. Would have been the hot round if it weren't for Harry Chase, but congratulations to Michael Johansen. Great playing both rounds. And as we see, a lot of good golf. 8 out of the 10 top scores were 1,000 rated. Harry Chase with that 1070 rated round. So Matt and Chris tied for 4th, with Dylan Horst, Bo coming in 3rd, Andrew Fish, Mike Moser, all those guys doing great up there. Thank you to D-Town Disc Golf for supporting our coverage one more time, and thank you to all of you for joining. I hope you enjoyed this coverage, one of the bigger tournaments of the year. We are covering a lot of tournaments this year. Like I mentioned, this is stop 11 of 25, so make sure you hit that subscribe button, check out all the stuff that we're doing. And we also have a podcast. If you're still looking for more content to watch, you can check that out here, and we'll see you in the next hole.